First away. Our winner back in 2019. Davo Johnson back on the Isle of Man TT course. He missed the TT through injury, but he's back here racing and already going through St Ninians.
Paul Jordan, now Michael Rutter. They work their way off the line on these classic superbikes, magnificent machines.
Fastest bikes tended to be the Kawasaki ZXR 750s. However, Michael Dunlop, as he rolls up to the line, was quickest in qualifying. He's on the XR69 as Davo Johnson goes through Braddon Bridge.
Of course, Davo missed this year's TT due to injury, so this is his first race start around the mountain course in a couple of years.
We're riding on board with Paul Jordan.
Yeah, Paul had an off in practice, hit a damp patch, so he's actually out on a spare bike, so it's a bit of an unknown quantity he's riding in the race.
And Davo Johnson.
Oh, he's not messing around.
He's not messing around. Into Ballacrane comes number 5. That's Brian McCormack.
Brian been going well in practice qualifying on a very good machine, looking fast.
So too Michael Dunlop, as I said, quickest in qualifying. Already Brian McCormack is catching up with Michael Rutter.
And Michael Rutter aboard the XR69. Suzuki and the Kawasaki just slips on past.
Well, here's Davo Johnson through Kurt Michael, and incredibly, he could be down in around 5th or 6th place. We've still got to wait for a couple more riders to come through at Glen Helen. Meanwhile, through Kurt Michael.
As you said, Dave, Michael has jumped on the back there. He's getting a bit of a tow.
Well, here's Davo Johnson. He was 6th at Glen Helen and still 6th at Bluff. And we're riding on board with Brian McCormack, who is in 4th place, just 4 tenths behind Rob Hodson. And already Michael Dunlop catching.
Oh, locks it up and drifts it into Parliament Square.
And there is the race leader, number 16, Craig Neve, only 3 tenths of a second ahead of Michael Dunlop. He may have been held up a little bit by Lee Johnson. And here comes Rob Hodson, the man in 3rd place. First man on the road, Davo Johnson through the bungalow. He'll be surprised, I think, to see P6 on his pit board. Craig Neve into Ramsey Hairpin, 3 tenths of a second ahead of Michael Dunlop, 3 seconds ahead of Rob Hodson. We're on board with Brian McCormack as Michael Dunlop goes through the bungalow, the next timing point. And incredibly, it's so tight amongst the top 6.
Look at this, Dave, a trio of riders across the mountain. That is some spectacle.
The Davo Johnson over the line, he's up into 4th place at the bungalow. On and here they go again, Cam.
Whoa, in Hilbury, 3 abreast.
Rob Hodson through bungalow, still in 3rd place. 3 tenths of a second down on Michael Dunlop.
Rob's got all that clear road ahead of him. Unlike this group, Michael Dunlop back past Brian McCormack through St Ninians Crossroads. Wow.
And here comes Rob Hodson across the line. We've got to wait for Craig Neve, of course, and Nathan Harrison. And here comes Dunlop out of McCormack again.
Oh, those two swapping paint. This is like a short circuit race between the two.
Here comes Craig Neve and Nathan Harrison just ahead of him. And Neve with 125.1, leads by 1.2 seconds.
Dunlop slowing, pulling over. Oh, could it be another mechanical issue for Dunlop?
Michael Rutter has got Dunlop behind him.
Dunlop's still circulating though. He's not one to throw in the towel easily.
We're on board with Rob Hodson, the man in 2nd place at the end of lap 1. 1.2 seconds behind Craig Neve and only half a second ahead of Michael Dunlop, although I think that gap will be bigger now as Hodson comes into Ballacrane. Now this man needs to get ahead of the man we're on board with if he wants to win this race. Harrison also in it, but there's 10 seconds between them now, as we can see. Into the pits then. 2 laps completed. Davo Johnson, who is still, he was 6th on the opening lap.
And Michael Dunlop stepped off the Suzuki. I'd say that's the end of his race. He looks to be throwing in the towel. Yet another mechanical issue for the TT legend.
And Hodson left the pits 0.03 of a second ahead of Craig Neve. Davo Johnson up to 3rd, a 52-second pit stop for him. Here's Davo Johnson, 3rd at Glen Helen. He's up into 3rd. He'd have been getting crazy pit boards as well, P6 and now P3. He's 12.3 seconds ahead of Nathan Harrison.
Oh, look look at Rob through there. He is so committed. Such a fine line on these machines, Dave. You've got to push so hard, but you also need to show these older bikes a little bit of sympathy if you can.
Well, Rob Hodgson, the gap between him and Craig Neve, just 0.2 of a second at Balaf. David Johnson goes through Ramsey. Here is the race leader with a little wobble.
The Alistair Cowan, Kawasaki's looking so good through there as we're board with Davo across the start line once again.
7.3 seconds the gap back to Nathan Harrison in fourth at the bungalow.
This is old school racing at its best. High horsepower superbikes, no traction control, no auto blipping or clutchless down changes. This is old school racing at its best.
Rob Hodgson, 4.1 seconds ahead of Craig Neve at the bungalow. 14.9 seconds further back was Davo Johnson.
Dave, these boys are pushing as hard as any TT race. They are absolutely flat to the mat.
Here is Davo Johnson. Is he going to grab himself a podium? He's got 8.7 seconds between him and Nathan Harrison. But the battle is still on between Rob Hodgson and Craig Neve for the victory in this race.
Now you're also allowed up to 1300cc pre-1987 machines, but the leading rider on that spec will be Michael Rudder. Oh, Nathan Harrison.
Yeah, smoke out of the back of Nathan Harrison. My goodness, he was in that battle with Davo Johnson for third place. So is it? Oh no, it's not. It's Craig Neve.
Oh no. As we were saying before, he can only push these older bikes so hard before they say enough. Davo looking fast and smooth on his way down to Parliament Square.
So Nathan Harrison is now up into third place as he goes through Kurt Michael.
Wow, Nathan must be getting pit signals. He is on an absolute charge to close that gap, Dave.
So Rob Hodgson, what a race. He was back in around 5th place on lap 1. He's now leading this race. So we're on board with Davo Johnson. He'd got a pit board at the gooseneck saying P2.
So he knows where he is in position. He's got clear road ahead of him. He has to keep pushing because this gap is closing.
Yeah, Nathan Harrison was 3.4 seconds behind at Ramsey. So Nathan Harrison is closing. Whether Davo Johnson knows that, this is his next pit board right here. That will also say P2.
Well, gauging the body language of that bike, snaking into signpost, I'd say he's still pushing.
So here comes Rob Hodgson. It's going to be his win. He wins. But who is going to take second place? We're on board with Nathan Harrison. He is gaining. It was 1.6 seconds at the bungalow. Can he make it across the line ahead of Davo Johnson? Here they go, and Harrison does it with the fastest lap of the race, 126.3 miles an hour. Nathan Harrison just nicks second place from Davo Johnson, but it's Rob Hodgson who wins the Classic Superbike Manx Grand Prix.
What an incredible race.